The wind, a ghost of autumn's chill, whispered through the skeletal branches of the pines, carrying with it the scent of damp earth and something else, something ancient and unsettling. It was September 23rd, 2025, exactly 1 year since Stephanie Dameron, then 13, had walked into these very woods and never returned. The yurt, nestled deep within the 20-acre property in New Sweden, Maine, stood silent, a hollow monument to a life abruptly fractured. I remembered the FBI agents, their crisp uniforms and polite, probing questions. So different from our rough and ready life. Hundreds of search parties combed every inch of our land, every thicket, every stream. They found nothing. Not a boot print, not a scrap of her blue shirt. Nothing. Official reports said abduction, a runaway gone wrong. But I felt it in my bones. A cold dread, deeper than any human malice. Stephanie wasn't taken by a person. She was taken by the woods themselves. In the corner, hunched over a crackling fire, sat Josiah, the elderly man the children called Gramps. He wasn't blood, but he was family, a fixture since their West Virginia days, a quiet oracle of forgotten wisdom. His gnarled hands stroked the rough bark of a piece of kindling. His eyes, clouded with age, held a knowing sorrow that none of the FBI agents had bothered to decipher.
She'll come back.
The agents say it's unlikely now, Martha. After a year.
The agents don't know Stephanie. They don't know these woods. They don't know anything. She never would have just vanished. The woods know her better than any of us. And sometimes the woods keep what they know. His words hung heavy, like the damp air outside. No one dared challenge Gramps. They knew his deep, almost mystical connection to the land. He had always warned them to respect the deep woods, never to venture too far, too carelessly.
The first bite of a thorn. Shiver, not just from the cold, but from what lay ahead. This yurt, this life. Every argument, Another bar slamming shut. The woods called. Vast, unyielding. Promise of freedom or something far worse.
She wore her armor against the world. Her trusted blue jeans and sturdy boots. But tonight, her wild hair and frantic movements told a different story. Her usual agility was now a desperate struggle. She walked, not away from, but towards the shadowed embrace of the ancient forest. The pines rose like silent, watchful sentinels. Their scent, a bitter promise of secrets held deep within. This wasn't merely a sanctuary. It was a devotion. 100 paths, 100 times she'd mapped them. But some maps are drawn by something else entirely. Today, something felt off. A subtle unease prickled at the back of my neck. The air, usually so fresh, now carried a faint metallic tang. Duck lay gold blood, or rust. She sought the solace of the hidden waterfall, a quiet sanctuary found in spring, where cool waters flowed over ancient stones. But the familiar path began to betray. The forest, once welcoming, now seemed to twist and turn. A fallen birch, a trusted guide, vanished from its place. The well-worn trail, her anchor, dissolved into thick, silent undergrowth. That's weird. She wasn't lost. Not really. She knew the general direction.
Curiosity. A powerful force in my solitary life. This was new. This was an adventure. This was freedom.
She altered her course, drawn by the strange light. The woods grew denser, the trees taller, their branches intertwining overhead to form a cathedral of shadow. The ground became softer, spongier, covered in a thick carpet of moss that swallowed the sound of her boots.
The light pulse. It seemed to move. Always just out of reach. Deep in the heart of the forest. A growing excitement. A sense of discovery that overshadowed the lingering unease. This is it. The secret heart of the woods. Something only I had found. A place where no one could tell me what to do. Where I could truly be myself.
Freedom, come closer. The thing unveiled itself. A silent stage, bathed in an unnatural blue. drawing me deeper into its strange, pulsing heart. Ancient trees, their bark contorted into screaming visages, watched my every move, cloaked in a moss that beat like a slow, hypnotic heart. The air hung heavy, thick with a sickly sweet perfume, and beneath my feet, the very earth thrummed with a barely audible, unsettling hum. An irresistible force pulled her hand towards the moss-draped branches. A surge of cold, electric energy shot through her as her fingers brushed the glowing tendrils. Images flooded her mind. Ancient forests, the patient crawl of roots, the endless cycle of life and death. You seek freedom. We offer it. You seek belonging. We are the oldest family. You seek understanding. We know all that is and all that will be.
Tears welled in my eyes, not of fear, but of an overwhelming sense of relief. This was it. This was what I had been searching for my whole life. This was the true escape, the ultimate freedom.
She felt her body grow lighter, her senses expand. The boundaries of her skin seemed to blur. Her connection to the earth beneath her feet deepening. The blue light intensified, enveloping her, pulling her deeper into its luminous heart. The scent became intoxicating, the hum a lullaby. She was no longer Stephanie Dameron, the rebellious teenager from the yurt. She was becoming something else, something ancient and primal, a part of the forest itself. Though, as the consciousness of the woods flowed into her, merging with her own, was of the yurt, of her family. A pang of regret, a flicker of longing for the life she was leaving behind. But it was quickly swallowed by the profound peace, the absolute belonging that now consumed her. She was home. The weeks after Stephanie vanished were a relentless nightmare for the Dameron family. A chaotic blur of endless searching. Days bled into nights, marked by the harsh beams of flashlights, distant shouts, and the relentless questions of strangers, eroding Christopher and Martha's scent. Their treasured off-grid life, once a sanctuary, now felt like a cruel trap, exposing them to suspicion and deepening their terrifying isolation. Guilt and fear became my constant companions, a heavy shell I couldn't escape. I searched tirelessly, long after the others had given up, convinced I could find some trace, some sign of Stephanie. These woods, her favorite paths, once familiar, now felt alien, hostile. They watched me. I knew it. Laura, Stephanie's closest sister, bore the heaviest burden of guilt. The last words they'd exchanged had been bitter, spiteful. She had spent countless nights staring into the darkness, imagining Stephanie's face, hearing her laughter, her exasperated sighs. She felt Stephanie's absence as a physical ache, a phantom limb that throbbed with unfulfilled longing. It was Gramps who truly understood, who felt the crushing weight of the tragedy. Day after day, he sat by the flickering fire, his gaze lost in the distance, his aged hands instinctively seeking the crude, ancient figures hidden in his pouch. These were the Ankui, the legendary forest spirits. He had recognized the omens, felt the unsettling shift in the wood's energy long before Stephanie vanished, the unnaturally thick fog, the glowing fungi, the phantom echoes in the trees. He tried to explain it to Christopher, to Martha, weaving tales of old, of the wood's patience, its hunger. The woods, they take what's given to them. They take the low, the lost, the ones who yearn for a freedom beyond what the world can offer.
Vance, please, don't fill their heads with nonsense. Devaney was abducted, or she ran away. There's a logical explanation.
Logic has no hold in the deep woods, son. Only patience and hunger. He alone knew the truth of the clearing of the ancient trees that pulsed with an otherworldly brood life. He had stumbled upon it himself many decades ago as a young man, drawn by the same irresistible lure. He had seen the figures half-formed, merging with the bark, their faces contorted in silent ecstasy. As the months turned into a year, the Dameron family became ghosts themselves, haunting their own lives. The yurt, once a bustling hub of activity, was now a tomb of silence. The generator ran less and less, its hum a reminder of Stephanie's absence, of the missing light she had brought into their lives.
The FBI, tireless in their efforts, eventually scaled back. I felt the frustration deep in my bones. I'd seen plenty of missing persons cases, but Stephanie's was different. The sheer lack of evidence, the complete erasure, was unsettling. It was as if she had simply ceased to exist.
One late autumn evening, as the first snow flurries began to dance on the wind, Elias found himself unable to sleep. A restless energy gnawed at him. He slipped out of the yurt, pulling on his thick coat and boots. You know what pulled him? Only that he had to go. He walked, not on the familiar paths, but directly into the heart of the deepest woods, guided by an instinct he couldn't explain. The air was colder here, the silence profound. He walked for what felt like hours, deeper than he had ever dared venture alone. The trees grew denser, their boughs intertwining overhead, blocking out the moonlight, plunging him into an almost absolute darkness. He stumbled. Then he saw it. A faint blue glow, pulsing softly in the distance, deep within the shadows. It was the same light Stephanie had followed. Elias felt a jolt of terror and recognition. He wanted to scream, to run, but his feet moved as if on their own, drawn by the ethereal luminescence. The air grew heavy, thick with that strange, sweet, sickly scent he remembered from the early days of the search. He pushed through the final barrier of snow-laden branches, and then it was there. The clearing, smaller than he'd imagined, almost swallowed by the ancient, twisted trees. Their bark, now encrusted with that luminous blue moss. The light pulsed, an otherworldly heartbeat, making the fresh snow appear to breathe. The gnarled trees, the largest and most ancient, began to shift to reveal a horrifying truth. Elias watching, horrified. Stephanie's face emerged from the wood, her eyes now a milky, glowing blue, reflecting the eerie light of the moss. Her mouth slightly agape in a silent, beatific smile, and her hair, woven into the bark, sealed her eternal, horrifying embrace with the forest. Her arms, once strong and vibrant, now twisted branches covered in glowing moss, reaching out from the trunk. Her body barely visible beneath the wood, a haunting outline within the gnarled trunk. Her blue shirt and jeans, once fabric, now transformed, bark textured, and a deeper, moss-covered shade. Come, Elias, come to freedom. Come home. A profound cold seeped into his bones. A cold that had nothing to do with the snow. He knew with absolute certainty that if he took another step, he would join her. He would become another part of the woods, another silent, smiling face in the bark, forever embraced by the Ankui Dot. No terror seized him, his heart a frantic drum against his ribs. The haunting image of Stephanie's serene, blue-eyed smile burned into his mind, an inescapable brand. He bolted blindly through the snow-laden undergrowth, the frozen branches whipping at his face, unnoticed. He never told a soul what he witnessed. How could he? Who would ever believe such a tale? They would simply dismiss him as mad, or consumed by grief, or perhaps both. The word for Stephanie's safe return remains unclaimed. The FBI's file, a cold case, refuses to yield its secret. Special Agent Aguilar urges the public to keep the case alive. But in the Damrenier, the silence is deeper. A new wound festers. A chilling truth, unspoken. He tried to warn them of the forest's ancient hunger, of the way it sometimes chose, not to merely consume, but to absorb, to mimic, to twist the familiar into something monstrous. He had spoken of the shifting wood, a blight that crept, unseen, unheard, slowly claiming what it desired. But Christopher, a man of calloused hands and logical thought, had dismissed it as old man's ramblings, the superstitious fears of a bygone era. FBI agents, with their sterile uniforms and clipped, official tones, had packed up and left a week ago. Their pronouncements of a failed abduction, a runaway, had fallen flat in the face of the forest's impenetrable silence. No tracks, no discarded items, no sign of struggle, nothing. Inside the cabin, the silence was heavier than the deepest snow. It pressed down on them, each creak of the old wood, each sigh of the wind through the eaves, amplified into a terrifying declaration of Stephanie's absence. Christopher sat at the head of the table, his usually strong hands clasped so tightly his knuckles were white. He stared at the empty chair where Stephanie always sat, a phantom image of her bright, mischievous face, refusing to fade. His grief was a solid, unyielding block in his chest, mixed with a bitter resentment for the unyielding wilderness that had always been their provider, now their thief. Martha merely existed, her gaze fixed on the flickering flames, seeing not fire, but the endless dark expanse of the woods beyond.
Stephanie says the trees are singing, Mama.
A shiver ran down her spine, a mother's dread for a child's innocent words. I couldn't stay inside. The cabin, once a sanctuary, had become a tomb. The twilight air was sharp with pine and damp earth, a familiar path crunching beneath my feet. This was Stephanie's path to the creek. Our last argument, my harsh words, they echoed, a death knell in my mind. The comforting forest had turned oppressive, watchful, as shadows quickly devoured the last light. He stood at the clearing's edge, where Stephanie had vanished while picking berries. The berry bushes, unnaturally still, their leaves a darker, somber green, offered no comfort. Then I saw it, a single small leather boot, half buried in the damp earth, peeking out from beneath a cluster of fern. It was Stephanie's. I remembered the faint scuff marks on the toe, the laces she'd tied herself, always a bit uneven, but there was something wrong. The boot was too clean, too new looking, as if it had only just been placed there. And it was just one boot, no other sign. this.
This isn't hers, Elias. The size is right, yes. But Stephanie's boots were always caked with mud worn thin on the sole. This one, it's too clean.
The shifting wood, it mimics. It takes what it desires, then it twists it, reshapes it, until it is no longer what it was, but a cruel mockery.
What are you talking about, old man? Some nonsense about a shifting wood. Stephanie was taken by a person. Or she wandered off. Not by some ghost story.
You think you and left no tracks, no sign? You think a child who knew these woods better than any deer simply wandered off and left no trace? The forest has a memory, Christopher. It remembers those who live within it. And sometimes, when it is hungry, it reaches out. It calls to them with familiar voices, with familiar sights.
Stephanie says the trees are cold, Grandpa Josiah, and they want to hug her very, very tight.
A old dread settled over them, a chill far deeper than the cabin's drafts. Martha clutched the boot, its silent presence screaming the truth of Stephanie's fate. Elias felt the icy grip of fear, knowing their nightmare had just begun.
It began subtly, with whispers, with shadows. Then it offers trinkets, memories, twisted reflections of what was lost. It wants to grow, to spread, to take more. It thrives on the familiar, on the love, the connection. It devours the essence and leaves behind the echo.
Suddenly, a faint, almost imperceptible sound drifted from outside. A child's giggle, high-pitched, playful, exactly like Stephanie's. It seemed to come from the edge of the clearing, near where Elias had found the boot. A sudden cry pierced the suffocating silence. Martha's hands flew to her mouth, her eyes fixed on the dropped boot. Christopher stood frozen, a desperate flicker of hope battling raw terror in his gaze. Elias felt a sickening lurch, the horrifying truth of Josiah's words now fully understood, chilling him to the bone. The giggle came again, clearer this time, beckoning.
Stephanie! He's back. He wants to play.
No, don't go. It's a trick. It's not her.
Though filled with dread, an irresistible pull drew him forward. It sounded so real. Could it be? Could Stephanie truly have come back? He remembered her bright green dress, her wild, free spirit. No. Outside, the night held its breath, illuminated only by a cruel sliver of moon. It cast monstrous shadows that danced and writhed. The trees, gnarled and ancient, reached with skeletal fingers, guarding the encroaching dark. And there, where the light dared not trespass, a faint, shimmering child stood, its green dress a ghostly whisper, its head tilted, a familiar playfulness now twisted into something deeply unsettling.
Stephanie!
A chilling, joyful sound, promising reunion, yet hinting at something far more sinister. It felt like a cold hand had gripped my heart. I saw the moonlight pass through its edges, the green dress shimmering with an unnatural glow.
It's stronger now. It has tasted. And it wants more.
He watched Martha, drawn by an unseen force, a mother's desperate hope, blinding her to the danger that lay ahead. In her eyes, a raw, aching need to believe in the impossible. And in that moment, he knew the shifting wood was not a myth. It was real, and it was calling them all. Translucent arm beckoned from the edge of the woods as a chorus of faint, ethereal giggles echoed from the trees. Martha hastened, her bare feet barely grazing the frozen earth.
Martha, no!
With a sound like a whispered sigh, the figure dissolved into the deep shadows of the forest. Martha, with a faint, heartbroken cry, followed, disappearing into the impenetrable darkness. The playful giggles vanished, leaving behind only the chilling, rhythmic whisper of the wind through ancient pines. A profound, suffocating silence then claimed the clearing. Christopher stood frozen, his arm outstretched towards the empty space where Martha had vanished. His face was a mask of unspeakable horror. Elias felt a primal scream tear through his throat, but no sound escaped.